My name is Lisa Shea, and I'm a published author of about 450 works in all sorts of different topic areas: fiction and nonfiction, science fiction, fantasy, medieval romance, mystery, and I write horror stories. This series here is all about horror stories. I'll be interviewing some horror authors, I'll be talking about some of my own stories and their motivations, and this first video is about horror stories in general and the process of writing them. I have two black cats, may come in and join us because they seem to like to come in anytime I start talking. Oh look, here's one of them. These are siblings, Felix and Zuzu. This is Zuzu. You can tell because she's got a smooth tail and she's got a mitten on her paw. So Zuzu has come to say hello. You're going to stay still or you're just going to wander around while we talk? That's okay, you can wander around here. Lift your head up here so they can see you. Alright, now point that way. There we go. Good kitten. Yes. Alright, so horror stories. Horror stories are, at their base, a story that has some sort of a scary or fear-based or gory or other kinds of adrenaline racing aspect to it. So, sweetie, no eating cables. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Alright, try that. So when you're writing a horror story, it has to have the same basic attributes that any other story has in terms of not having typos in it, having good grammar usage, having a plot that doesn't drag, but also that doesn't race too quickly so that readers can't catch up, and having interesting characters with it so that the people who are reading it can relate to the characters. They can be fantastical characters, but they should be coherent within the worldview that you're creating, and also they should have some sort of dimension to them in the sense that people don't tend to like it if a character is all goody-goody or all completely pure evil. There has to be some sort of reason they are the way they are and some sort of texture to show that they aren't just a cardboard character. You're not a cardboard character. Alright, so we assume that you're able to get to that stage of things where you're able to have a reasonably good plot moving forward and that you have characters that are around and that you don't have a lot of typos or grammatical errors in that. So once you get that level of basics, then what do you do to it to make it into a horror story? Well, it does need the characters and the environment and all those kinds of things, but there tends to be extra layers to those because people who are reading horror stories have a different set of expectations in general than a person who's reading a romance story or a fantasy story or something like that. When people are reading those other types of stories, they're generally not expecting strong doses of fear or terror or paranoia or those kinds of aspects to them. And there's all sorts of crossover stories. So you can have, a horror romance or so on. But for the horror part of things, you want to have a story that's got those doses of adrenaline. People generally read them because they want to feel that jolt of fear or the jolt of terror or the slow creeping dread that's in the story, whatever type of story you choose to write. So a good way to figure out what aspect you want to work into yours is to read stories in your particular topic area and see how they tend to be portrayed. For example, I don't like to write gore types of horror that have a lot of blood and guts and that sort of thing. I like to write psychological horror where it's about the emotions and the mental state of the characters. So if I read a lot of gore and tried to take inspiration from them, that wouldn't help me with the kinds of stories that I'm trying to write. So I would tend to read Edgar Allan Poe, those kinds of things, the Cthulhu stories. Stories that are more about creeping dread and about a sense of unease in the world. So then, in this particular case, if you're writing that kind of story, how do you achieve that? You don't achieve it by describing lots of blood and guts, because that would be a different kind of story. You do it by describing the environment and the characters in a way which is unsettling and odd, which gives you that sense that something's not quite right about this universe. So that's where you layer in the different details and you use different adjectives to give that sense of unease or that something's going wrong. Or if you're in a first person where you're actually inside the person's head, you can have them feeling unease and have them hearing strange sounds and seeing strange sights and all of those different things to build the environment in the person's mind. So it will be different for different types of horror, and as we go through and talk to different authors in this series, you'll be able to hear firsthand how each person approaches their task and their type of area. And when I do talk about my own stories, I'll talk about the psychological and emotional types of stories and how to achieve those ends. So a lot of it comes down to reading a lot of material in your chosen subtopic area. Really narrow in on the types of stories you want to write, the stories that you're interested in, and then find out, hey, I said no eating wires. Wires are not healthy. And then bringing them to life with the particular techniques that are used in that topic area. So if someone's writing gore or splatter, they'd use lots of descriptions of the way the bones crunched or the blood spurted or that sort of thing. If you're writing more psychological stories, it'd be more about the impressions the person is getting, the fears that they have, the types of concerns they have about cats climbing on things. This is what cats do. Alright, well, I think that gives a general summary of where we're going to be heading with this series. So be sure to post in the comments if you have any particular things you want me to address as I go through these, or any particular types of authors you'd want me to get in touch with to be able to work with. And I'd like to hear if you're writing stories, what kind of stories you're interested in writing, and what kind of challenges you face, and what you feel that you can do better, or what you want to work on some more. And be sure to like and subscribe. Hey, I said no eating things. Alright, I need to take care of Kitty. Be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you have a great evening, and I hope if you have kitties that they are not eating wires right now. Alright, I'll see you soon.